Chapter 1 Extraordinary Memes. Start with Lane. My first night at the Lathania house, and I lay awake in my narrow glamour room in Cottage 6, wondering how many people had died in it. And I didn't just wonder the casual either, I did math, or I figure out the probability. And I came up with the number 8. But then I always being a terrible at math. In 4th grade, we had to do time test for our multiplication table 5 times a page, 5 questions, 50 questions each, and if you want to be move on, you could not make any single mistake. The teacher charted our progress on the piece of hot pink posture board tape up for everyone to see. A smiley face sticker next to our name for each table we complete. I watched as the number of stickers next to everyone else's name grew while I got stuck on the 7th. I did the flashcard every night, but it was no use because it was not the multiplication table that was giving me trouble. It was the pressure of being told two things that I had a short amount of time, second, that I had to get everything right. When I finally drift off to sleep, I dream of house falling into the ocean and drowning. The waters swallowed them, but they rose up again from the black depth, rooting and covering in seaweed as they root the way back to the shore looking for their owner. I am the only child, so the prospect of using the communal bathroom was pretty horrifying, which is why I set my alarm the first morning for 6 o'clock, tip-topping down the hall with my doping kick and towel while everyone else was still asleep. It was a stranger wearing a shoe in the shower, being completely naked except a pair of flip-flops, washing my hair with shoe on, and doing it in Tupperware of container of shower stall felt so different from my normal Monday morning routine that I wondered if I ever get used to it. I used to sleep at my home, waiting until the last possible moment to roll out of bed and grope off cleaning shirt and eat a caramel bar on the drive to school. I listened to whatever the songs were on the radio, not because I liked them, but because they were much taught card. If a song was good, it would be the good day. If they were bad, I probably get B on my quiz. But that morning, standing at the window of my dorm room as I buttoned my shirt, I felt like entirely different person. It was as thought someone has taken an eraser to my life instead of getting rid of mess. Had rubbed away all the part that I want to keep. Now, instead of my girlfriend and my dog and my car, I had a pale green venti mattress, a view of wood, and etches in my chest. I got in the late the night before. My parent drove me up. Dad clutched the steer wheel and mom steering a straight ahead as we listened to NPR for 6 hours with the window down, not saying anything. Dinner was long over and it was almost light up out by the time I opened my suitcase. Lesson still didn't feel real, not yet I encountered it, tip-topping around the corner out of sync with the rest of its residents, but I had yet become one of them. It was the end of September and I was 17th, and my senior year was taking place 400 miles away without me. I tried not to think about that. Was awaited for my tour guide outside the dormitory in the early morning chill of mountain. I tried not to think about any of it because I was pretty sure the full weight of my situation would crush me. Instead, I thought would about wet flip flop and math problems and my cell phone. which I had for few brief hours in a car, which had been taken from me upon the arrival. According to my information packet, your first day Ambassador Grand Heddle will meet you outside your dorm at 7:55 a.m. to take you to breakfast and help you to find your first class. So I waited for a grant to show up while everyone else streaming a pass to me and shuffling toward the dining hall in a motley assortment of sweat pants and pajamas like we were at summer camp. Of course, Gran was running late, as so I stood there forever, getting more and more annoyed. It seemed ridiculous that I couldn't just find my own way to breakfast or Lathian one academic building that I need to be a publicly escort. I glanced at my wrist, 8:09. I didn't know how much longer I was reasonably accept to stand there, so I waited another few minutes, then gave up a walking to dining hall. It was easy enough to find the place, to pick up a tray and join the lane of half asleep teenager. I was right. I had not need some kids to show up me around after all. It was just a cafeteria line, and I took a bowl of cereal and little milk carton, noting that my old high school that has carried same brand of milk and featuring the weird and grinning cow head. How stranger for everything to shifted so drastically for the milk carton to stay the same. I slid my tray along the counter and passed the plate of egg and muffin and toast, but it was not until I heard someone yelled for friend to save him a seat that I realized my mistake. I was totally alone, and I been so impatient to get to the dining hall that I had not thought it through. Maybe I gone into the bathroom that morning along with everyone else and pitched myself into the juice instead of avoiding it. I could have found someone to walk over with. Now I didn't even know who's lived on the floor, and I was fast approaching the front of lane without even a cell phone to rescue me from total disaster of having now where to sit in the crowd dining hall. I was thinking that I couldn't have a screw this up worse when nutritious fall down at my tray like I personally disappoint here with my choice of breakfast cereal. That it, she asked. I am not really hungry. I never was in morning and my appetite usually slip in until noon. And I couldn't sign off on this, she said, as though I should have known better. If you are too unwell to eat full meal, you talk to whole nurse before breakfast. Too unwell, good. How embarrassed. It was my first day, and I said desperately I didn't know. I glanced behind me, uncomfortably aware that I was holding up a lane, a way to make my impression, and I had not known it was possible to fail breakfast. Actually, I should have known. Grant should have been told me you can go back through the some protein or you can take a strike. She glared at me, all the pursed lip and little tail stink and waiting. The thought of the slink to back of lane with everyone watching and filled me with the sense of awe. She couldn't mean it, but apparently she did. Well, Nutritious asked, I wish I were the sort of guy who take a strike, whatever it means, just to prove that I didn't have to play by the system. But I was not, at least not yet, and I was head down and grade up sort of guy. When the warning bell rang, I hustled, and when the stellar test was given, and I bought a spare number 2 pencil, and so with everyone watching, I took a deep breath and went to back of my lane. That was brutal. The boy in the front of me said. He was my age and pudgy Indian kid with a pair of old fashioned glasses and mess of black hair. Even at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. He was all nervous energy. Not many people can say they flunked breakfast on their first day. I didn't do the homework. I said I had too much on my plate, and he grinned, picking up on the pen. Or apparently not enough, he said. I am Nikhil. Everyone call me Nick. And I am Lane. So Lane, he said, here is here is a crash course on the meal. You take a dish from each station. You don't have to eat it all. Hell, you could scrap the collagen out of the egg and toast it, but you can take full plate and bring back empty one. Does not that defeat the purpose of having a nutritious? I asked. Preciously, which where the plan come in. We have a plan. We do indeed. Because lovely old Linda up there told you to go back for more. But she didn't tell you how much more. I saw where he was going with immediate. Oh no, I said I am not really. You looking pretty hungry there, Lane. Nick grinning hugely as he slung a plate of scrapple egg onto my tray. Before I could protest, he topped the scrambled egg with a hard boiled one. I looked down at my tray and damage was done and I have been egged. And so Nick egging me on and I added on toast of scat of toast. Perfect, he said. Now how about a muffin? He reached into the case and held up entire plate and offering it to me with flourish. How about two? I said. We were halfway to the front when the lineup stopped moving again. You can't be serious, the nutritious said. Everyone craned forward to see what was going on. It was a girl. She was small and blonded with messy ponytail. On her tray was single mug of tea. So giving me a strike and girl said, it sounded like challenge. Go back through. You and I both know there is not enough time for that, the girl said. It was true. There was maybe 20 minutes before we had to head to class. My tea getting cold, so if you don't mind, said the girl. She held out her wrist with a black silicone bracelet, daring the nutritious to scan it. The dining hall was silent and we were all watching to see what the Linda would do. And then she scanned the girl through the typing furiously into the computer bank. Strike 2 this month and Sidia she won. Oh, after my third strike, do I get out? A girl asked, laughing. She excited the lane and trumpet the mug of tea in the front of her like trophy. As she walked toward the table and I saw her full on for the first time, she was marvelously early morning kind of pretty. With ponytail she probably slept in and a sweater slip off one shoulder and her lips were painted red and her mouth quickly up at the corner and she looked like a last girl you expected to start trouble in the cafeteria on Monday morning. But that was not why I was staring. There was something oddly familiar about her. I had the unshaken impression and that I have been seen here somewhere before we already meet. And then I realized we had at the Camp Griftain 4 years ago. That awful place in Lost Parrot my father had shipped me off to when I was younger, so they could go on vacation without me. Well, that other way to handle it. Nick said, interpreting my train of thought. Belated, I realized he was talking about Sadie. Won't she get in trouble? And I asked, of course, Nick snorted, but Sadie won't get in trouble when she want to. I didn't know what he meant, and I was about to ask, but we reached the front of lane. Hey there, Linda. May you piskew this morning? Nick smirkingly presenting the nutritious with his tray upon which he arranged his tofu sauce, eggs, and English muffin into the unmistakable shape of pennies. I was scanned through with equal disargue and Abbas to about to follow the Nick over to his group of friends. When he gave me a chin of nod and said, "You probably want to catch up with your tour guide and kick his ass for not warning you about the food station." Something I like that I mug. "Well, I see you around." Before I could answer, he was gone, and I stood there alone. Try not to despair as my unwanted breakfast slid around on my tray. It was too dark inside the dining hall. The paneled wood and brass chantron swallow all sense of time. The table was small and rounded thing, the six seated each, like some disastrous King Arthur caught, and I thought longingly of Harbour High, with its plum tree and plastic wrap sandwich where my group and I hung out in the little courtyard behind the science lab. We were the marginally accepted AP crown, like enough to hold officer position in the Model Unit Nation Club, but not on radar for something like student council. Most day my girlfriend and I would check homework, answer or study for next period. We pass the we pass a can of coke back and forth while we eat our sandwich. It was not a kind of group where we hang out each other houses, but I never once doubt that I had a place to sit. I watched as a Nick joined a CD table and shrinking a pose with his breakfast art that made everyone laugh, and I understood then that he had not made the plates of junk food to piss off the nutritious. He made it to amuse his friend, and there was a little seat left, but Nick had not invited me to join him. Anyway, they probably belong to me to people who are still in lane. I hope my missing tour guide would see me standing there and wave me over to his table with sheepest apologies, but no such luck. The 2.5 breakfast on my tray was starting to get heavy, and I had to put the things down somewhere, so I took a deep breath and walked to the back of my dining hall like I know where I was going. And I sat down randomly at the table with the four empty seats and two boys intensively playing a game of travel chess, who seemed to be off in their own world. And I sign and pour my milk in cereal and dump in the whole carton instead of try to get in proportion right. Cheers float to the top and booping like empty like a rap. "Hey, I'm a guinea view. Are you new?" a girl asked, taking the seat next to mine. Her smile was friendly, but there was something about the combination of freckle and ponytail and teeth that made me certain she had a dozen horse riding ribbon pinning over her desk. "First day," I said. "You'll love it here." She promised. "What you drawn?" "On six," I said. "John in six," she said, as though this was a bigger coincidence in the world. "He is my boyfriend." He was there in the minute and the lane taking forever today. And I was at the wrong table, and I knew then as the girl introduced me to the John, her inches rangy boyfriend, and to Tim and Chris, the two chess players I mistakenly assumed were sitting by themselves, not waiting for rest of group. "Are you really going to eat all that?" John asked, staring at my tray. "It's jog," I explained half-hearted. The nutrition said, "Oh, you don't want to make her mad. Genevieve won. She gave you a strike against privilege. If you get three in a month, you are banned from social." The social, I asked. Didn't your tour guide tell you anything? Genevieve asked. Not really, I said, not to wanting to get into it. Oh, well, we get some big activity every month. Can you explain? I think this was a time it's lane dancing. John put in some sound scarily excited. I snorted. No wonder. Sahid had bit the nutritious. I assume it was a detention or chore or whatever else bad kids were punished with. Not a free pass from making a fool of yourself to Cotton Eye's joy. But then Nick had said she only got in trouble when she wanted to. Genevieve launched enthusiastically into the description of lane dancing just in the case I was not already aware how much I would rather go to the dentist. I smiled and nodded and was wishing I could have breakfast in peace, but I was one who sat at their table and they was just being a nice and as if awful as they were, it looked like I could have to panic picked a table far worse. A group to my left was totally checked out and I couldn't tell if they were just early morning zombies or if the glaze expression was permanent. And on my right was the table of girls who were actively not talking to each other as they glare at their scrambled egg. I glanced across the dining hall toward the Nick and side table. There was a something magnetic about it, about them. Even from all the way where I sat in the outer ring, I couldn't figure out what they were. Not that your typical social group apply at a place like a Lithium. There was a four of them and they were laughing. Nick had panicked up his breakfast and sauce and was holding it aloft like orchestra conductor, waving it slowly and deliberately next to me, and Genevieve started coughing and she scrambled for napkin and pressing it over her mouth. Sorry, she said, the orange juice has pumped. You okay? Bunny? Johnny asked, rubbing her back. And God, I really had to pick a winner of a table, but something about Genevieve cocking made me realize that behind the talk and the eating and scraping of chair, the dining hall inches with the coughing. It was like a symptom of sickness, and I glanced over Sahid's table again, and sure enough, that was what they were laughing at. Nick, with his tofu sauce, was conducting the coughing. Thankfully, all the classrooms were in the same building, so I found my way to English without too much trouble. It was a large wooden pallet room with a huge open window like atrium. There was an old-fashioned clankboard and 20 desks. 20 I used to smartboard, locker and public school. And something told me that Mr. Holder, a blending crane of man in shapeless tweed blazer, had never been near a public school in his life. Yes, he asked, as I hesitated in the doorway, wondering if seating was assigned. And I am Elaine Brusen, I said. I knew. Welcome to rotation, he said grimly, and take a seat next to the Mr. Caro. He pointed toward the slender looking guy in the first row. I said, talking out my notebook and pencil. Holder slap a copy of Great Expectation and photocopies packet on my desk. Read a chapter, answer the question, and rinse and repeat. When you are done, I give you an essay topic. He said, leaving me to it. I stared down at the paperback on my desk. All around me, students were working and some of them had different books. I spotted Lord of Fly, Moby Dick, and Sunday Also Rise. I assigned and opened my packet and skipping the question so I knew what the answer to be look like for when I start reading a trick and panic up step preparation. When class was over, Holder said, see you on Wednesday, and everyone started to pack up, and I was about to halfway through the question for chapter 2. Wait, I said boy to next to me. What the homework? Good one. He sorted snort as though I said something funny. In the history, we watched a documentary on the Black Plague and filled in the worksheet during the movie. The teacher didn't even stay in the room with when she left. I expect the class to erupt into the cheers, but everyone continued watching except for a couple of kids who put their head down on the desk and went to sleep. I sat at same table for the lunch, which I had not meant to do, except Genevieve was two places behind me in the lane, so there really would was not exit tact. I hope my missing tour guide would have found me by now, but no such luck. I could feel the monotony sitting in. I wish it would not. I didn't want to be a Latin. I didn't want this routine of having my meal check and my teacher write me off at the first class. And I want to be a third period AP Euro in Mr. Verma classroom with all the new old newspaper frame on the wall where we got a pizza the Friday before an exam back at the harbor. Being in APO was like belong to her club that teacher liked the best. We were going somewhere in the life. The teacher said hanging us an extra credit assignment instead of detention or studying guide instead of busy work. I just never thought I where I was going was Lathium House. We took a long break after a lunch. As I trunk across the quid toward the cottage, I saw four students cut out toward the wet Nick Sahid crowd. They walking quickly and head down as they hurry up towards something far more interested than rest. And even though they didn't in plain sight, no one seemed to be care. 18 cottages were arranged in the half moon around Gimpo in the desperate need of paint job. They were more like a ski log than the actual cottage with the dark wood and deep porch, a neat row of wood window. Each cottage had around 20 residents, if I had to guess. The first floor was a lounge area with depleted and played sofa, a long study table, and a stack of board game. There was a separate television room and a micro kitchen. Even though we were not supposed to cook anything, the best place in the lounge had already been stacked out by the early arrival. I watched as a group of four Asian kids play a loud game of Strackle of Cat on the rug, and two boys were deck on the magic card hanging over the coffee table. My new and hopeful temporary acquisition from the earlier were starting up a game of Chinese checker, and they cheerfully wave me over and we can play. Team John suggests I should finish the unpacking, I said, edging toward the door. Well, later than Tim called, or maybe it was a Krish. I didn't want to stick around the long enough to figure it out. As I made my way back to my room, muffled music and unmistakable sound effect of video game leak from behind the closed door. It was reassuring to hear the Smith and someone Pokemon battle for some small part of the day to be normal. I reached out into my pocket and forgetting for the moment that it was empty, and I felt so lost without my cell phone, like I might get the most important email of my life and it wouldn't just sit there for a hour under unread. Not that I was expected a email like that, but still my room was at very end of hall corner room. I assumed that was why it was so narrow. Best coffin in the place, I thought, then instantly hate myself for going there. It was not terrible. I mean, sure, all the furniture was miniature. There was a twin extra long bed, which still didn't make it any roomier. And I had a massive bed at home and love her dearly. She was a queen. She was my queen, and I was her loyal subject. Well, her loyal subject is exile. At the foot of my mini bed was a wardrobe that looked suspiciously like locker, a vestige of when this place had been all the boy boarding school. I tried and failed to squeeze my still packed suitcase inside the night before and had kicked it under the bed in defeat. It was stung out, and I already tipped over it twice. And I also had a wooden desk and chair, two hanging window that was stung openly permanent for fresh air. The best part about my room that was a view, endless stretching of wood, a sky with the distant haze of mountain. If I had known why we were in the middle of nowhere, it might have been peaceful. I run through my desk drawer until I found the thick, glossy handbook. I have been given a night before and clung into the bed to read it. I figure study the rules was the best thing to do since I didn't want to accidentally fail breakfast again. God, the handbook was tedious, and I could feel myself falling asleep as I read about suggest the wellness dress option, and I try to stay away, but I have been up for the most of the night. There had not been any coffee at breakfast. I woke up a goji and disoriented. The handbook was on the floor and pages down, like it was trying to strangle away. I didn't blame it. When I checked my wrist, I realized I didn't been out for the while. I scratch and walk over to the window that faced the wood, watching for a fourth student to return. It was getting late, and I was wondering if I missed them entirely. We were supposed to dress out for PE, which was ironically called wellness by two-thirds, except I was clear for wellness, yet I supposed to go to the medical building instead. And I was just about to head over when I saw them emerge from the grove of trees. Shahid was out front, an expensive camera swinging over her shoulder. Nick was there too, his horny rimmed glasses blinking in the sun, and bring up the rear was a plunk kids in the black skinny jean. Dogs who look like Dogs who looked like he was in band, and tall black girl who was shaking a leaf from the hem of billing lane of dress. Like she was step off the stage in the school play. She strolled back toward the room as though they owned the place, and in the moment they did, I watched as a scythe stopped to take a picture of group. Solmy raised her camera and flipping with Lane. Instead of posing, they stopped where they were. As they frozen, letting her capture the moment forever. I remember at least this much about her. She taken up photos all the time at summer camp and sneaking out the wood and despair for the hour. She was all elbow and kneeing back then. I was one of the shortest boy in the cabin. My memory of that summer was hazy, and mostly I had to do being a terrified of this was one asshole cabin mate of mine who threatened to piss on every one bed if we didn't give him our commissionary snack. We were starting 8th grade in the fall, and almost overnight everyone had to go from pointing out a girl with a visible bra straight to the girl who was definitely gonna blow them after lower senior dance at the Rock in the Wood. For their sake, I hope the rogue had signed up a sheet. I had not been exchanged more than a couple of sentences with Shahid. See, I didn't say much of anything during the terrible summer where two guys got a kick out of my cabin for stealing and disguise a game of snoogie. Suging cookies had ending so badly that one real friend went home 2 weeks early, his father threatening a lawsuit, but I still remember Sahid with the purple rubber band in her brace and these tight dye shot, always alone and always stooping to photograph a leaf or flower. I had been impossible that I recognize anyone in Latha that there could be a familiar face up in the Santa Cruz hundreds of miles from the home, but the more I consider it, the more it made a terrible kind of sense. A Lathan house we were asked to believe in unlikely miracle. In second chance, we woke up each morning and hoping that the odd had somehow swung in our favor, but that the thing about the odd. Roll a die twice and you expected two different results, except it doesn't work that a way. You could roll the same side over and over again. The law of universe intact, the unchanged with each turn. It only when you consider the past, the odd change, the things become less and less likely. Here's something I know because I nerd, but up until the middle of 20th century, dyes were made out of cellulose narrate. It is a material that remains stable for decades, but in flash can decompose. The chemical compound break out and releasing a nitric acid. So every time you roll a die, there is a small chance that wouldn't give you a result at all. That instead it will be clutch and crumple and expose. Thank you so much. The chapter of first is complete. Next chapter is about scythe. I will explain in other video. Thank you. And sorry for pronunciation. Some word you didn't understand.